We are in our 22nd day, and we started talking about the third quarter will be mainly focused on how I refine myself in order for me to go into the fourth quarter where I can start practicing the ultimate bitul to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, to be 100% nullified to Hashem. Because if I'm not, I will never be able to get any blessing or any energy or shefa and abundance if I am what's called an existence. Of course, we're not going to get to levels that our forefathers got to, like Avraham Avinu says, "V'ani afar va'efer," I'm dust, and David HaMelech, King David says, "V'ani tolat v'lo ish," I'm like a worm. We're not going to get to these levels, but since they were able to get to these levels, Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech, Avraham Avinu, and many others, they were able to elevate themselves to such a spiritual level to become what's called a kli kibul, a vessel that is a receptacle. I was about to say a vessel that is worthy of the abundance that Hashem wants to give. Because Hashem, you have to understand, is projecting this endless spiritual light with the ultimate desire to give and to give. But He made it in such a way that we're not going to be completely nullified by the intensity of the light. And this is called in the Kabbalistic term tzimtzumim, contractions. We'll call it now filters. Because if not, it will be too intense and the soul in the body will not going to be able to contain it. But the desire of the Kadosh Baruch Hu is to give in that intensity. Now it depends on the receiver how much I can get. So Hashem made a system that if I will follow the system, that my vessel, my spiritual vessel, will slowly build the capacity to hold such intensity. And what is the system? It's called Mitzvot. A mitzvah can be translated to a commandment. I will translate it now to its real root, which is tzavta. Mitzvah comes from the word tzavta. Tzavta means a unity, a chibur, but a unity in a very profound way that one becomes mixed with the other. There's certain types of unities that we can hold hands and we're united, but we're two separate entities. Or I'll give a different example from the world of dining. You can have on a plate a piece of chicken, some rice, some peas. They're all on the same plate, but they're not mixed with each other. And if you put the rice and the peas and the chicken, you can still separate them. So this is a lower level unity. And of course a higher level unity that you can't extract the two substances once they're mixed together. Like you put coffee and water and sugar. Now let's see you taking out the sugar or the coffee or separating the milk. Even though it might be, I'm not going to argue with the fact that it might be able to be separated, but this is a greater unity. And of course the highest level of unity is that not only that it's not separable, but that the two entities become as one. This is yichud betachlita yichud. Unity in the most highest level, which of course that's what we strive for. With that short introduction, we have to understand that we have two systems how to get to this point. Because really my point in the universe is to get closer to Hashem. That's really what one should focus on. How do I get closer to Hashem? I explained last week, a lot of people, I don't think they really understood what I'm saying. Because we were talking about Yirat Shamayim. Yirat Shamayim is God-fearing. When you tell people you have to be God-fearing, or you need Yirat Shamayim, you need God-fearing, people think, oh, I need to be scared of Hashem. That if I blink the wrong way, lightning will come and strike me. That's not God-fearing, that's stupidity. God-fearing, and again, the words in English are very hard to get the point across, because Yirat Shamayim is that I'm afraid to be separated from Hashem. That's really Yirat Shamayim. I'm not afraid of Hashem, I'm afraid to be separated from Hashem. Like as if you would now give some brain to a fish, and the fish will be afraid to be pulled out of water, knowing that it cannot survive without the water. We don't have the ability to realize that without Hashem, I'm nothing. If I would have the ability to realize that, then I would be completely at awe and bowed down to Hashem. And that's the real God-fearing, that I'm afraid not to be connected to Hashem for one split second. And how do I get disconnected from Hashem? A little lie, some lashon hara, maybe cheating, slandering, whatever it is. I do a sin, boom, I get separated from the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's really where the fear has to come for, not to be connected to Hashem for 1 second, oy vavoy. So the system of the mitzvot is not as a slave to be oppressed and, now you do my commandments. No, this is a system with many different channels. How do I get connected to Hashem? And of course, there are many precepts, many prohibitions. Don't do. Why are these old don't do's? That way Hashem created the world in a very sophisticated way, that if I connect with Him in the wrong way, then it will cause a short circuit, a spiritual short circuit. So that is called in a Jewish way, a mitzvat lo taseh, a negative mitzvah. Don't do that. Why don't? Because it will cause a separation. So the system of getting closer to the Kadosh Baruch Hu is when I build tools or vessels, or better to say tools to this analogy, and these are the mitzvot, of course. That's what will get me closer and unified with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, with all fibers of my soul. We imagine a soul, something untangible, spiritual, like a Casper, like flying around. That's not a soul. Soul is a very sophisticated being that we can't even fathom, even 1%. What's a soul? We're trying to imagine maybe it's a ghost or a spirit, but when you go into the level of neshama, not ruach and nefesh. Nefesh and ruach, they do have a shape, by the way. The neshama, this is mufshat. This is something that I don't even know how to image it. But the soul is a very sophisticated being that we can't even fathom how sophisticated this being is. And the soul is built from, we'll call it now, different fibers. And it's able to connect to Hashem in many different ways. But Kadosh Baruch Hu made it simple. Here you can connect with me in this world through these codes. Kind of like a Morse code, when you have a spy on the other side of the border, and the spy, in the olden days, they used to have Morse code. And the receptors would be like, okay, we know what he's saying. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us different codes, and for the ones who are programmers can more relate with what does it mean codes, how to connect with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. With that said, now we'll take it to the next level, and I'm going very short here on very deep concepts, is that once that I build this system to be able to connect to Hashem, now I need to use oil. So the machine will run smooth. Take a car, take out the oil, it's not going to run so well. It's going to break down after a few kilometers. It needs oil to oil the machine. The oil for the machine, this is when I refine, I do the fine tuning. This is Tikun Amidot. You can have a great system of mitzvot. You do the whole thing, but there's no oil to the machine, it will burn out. Or it will get stuck, like an engine will go overheating, the cylinders inflate, and the engine is kaput. Same thing here. So yes, the mitzvot, as I quoted Rabbi Chaim Vital, the student of the Arizal, who said, no doubt that the mitzvot and Torah and all this is the basics, but the real purpose is Tikun Amidot. And he calls it Tikun Amidot. The Gaon from Vilna calls it Leshaberet Amidot, to break the midot. And there's different approaches, by the way. There are, in general, 3 different approaches how to start refining your midot. I think this week we should start learning a book called Tomer Dvorah, taught by the Ramak. I taught that about 2 years ago in depth. I think we should do it again, more in depth, because this is one shita, one way how to do Tikkun HaMidot. There's another shita based on the book of Sharei Kedusha. We should start learning that simultaneously too. Very, very powerful books, completely different way of thinking, even though they were written more or less at the same time, but 2 huge giants. One of them was written by the Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, who wrote Tomer Dvorah. which is really not mamash a book of Kabbalah. It's really one of his works that is not really Kabbalah. But if he wrote it, you can be counting on that there's a lot of Kabbalah in there. And the other side, of course, is Sha'arei Kedusha, which is also written by Rabbi Chaim Vital, who took all the teachings of the Ari HaKadosh and put it in writing. And Sha'arei Kedusha is also kind of like a exception in the teaching. But two powerful ways how to start refining your midot. Now, what we need to focus on is that I need to build a very sophisticated system of getting close to Hashem, which don't try to invent the wheel. The Kadosh Baruch Hu already gave me the system. And it's called Mitzvot, commandments. And you have a bunch of them that you have to do and a bunch of them that you don't do. And there's different ways of doing it. We're not focusing on Mitzvot right now. Now we need to understand that if I apply the Mitzvot in my life, and I get professional in the Mitzvot, to a point that I put the tefillin perfectly. You know that if you put the tefillin the wrong way, it's like you didn't do anything. That's how it is. You put the mezuzah the wrong way, you didn't do anything. All the mitzvot, if you're not doing it the right way, it's like a frequency that is being transmitted to the wrong receiver. The receiver will not pick up on that. So if you put the tefillin a little bit off-centered from the head, you lost the point. The reception, there's a static in the world above. Two of the straps in the tefillin will touch each other, short circuit. So yeah, that's why there are so many rules that you need to know. And if you're looking at the written Torah, it doesn't say anything there about tefillin. It says you should have a sign on your hand. End of story. And then a totafot ben enecha, which we don't even know what totafot means. It's the totafot is coming from a language that is called Afrikaite. It's an ancient language that is not even Lashon Kodesh. But nevertheless, anything in the Torah, it doesn't explain. Comes the oral Torah and breaks it down. So we're not focusing on mitzvot right now. What we're focusing on now is how you oil the machine. And if you're not going to oil the machine, it's not going to function. Doesn't matter how professional you are in the mitzvot. And the oil to the machine is when I refine my characteristics, my midot. And we're going to go through a whole list of midot. Some say there's about 70, some will break it down to 80. But there are so many midot that if I do not work on my midot, then I am missing the whole point. Now, since we want to apply something, I already explained that the midot are broken into negative and positive, good and bad. The top midah on the positive side is midat Anava, being humble, and the top, or the highest in the negative, is midat Geula, being pride, ego, arrogance. Although it's not neither one of them, because Geula will birth arrogance and ego and all these horrible characteristics. The Geula is pride. This is the easiest way to explain it. There are two ways of tackling the Tikun Midot. Focusing on the negative, and this is a little bit harder. I choose usually to empower the positive. Because if you focus on the negative, you have to be, excuse my language, one hell of a working machine to be able to take a midah and to break it. That's why the Gaon from Vilna calls it leshaber et hamidot. Because let's say you have a midah of gasut ruach, of being, it's not even arrogant. Gasut ruach is, no, what would you call gasut ruach? I would call it rudeness, maybe, vulgar rudeness. And to break it, you need to break the midah. It takes a lot of hard work. But on the other hand, if you more empower the positive mitzvot, the positive midot, then by default it would weaken the negative. So now I'm not going to start giving you advice how to do it. I will more rather give tools. You choose what you rather work on. I can tell you already that to break a midah is very hard. It's almost like taking, if you take one stick, it's easy to break it. But when you take the same stick times 20 and you try to break it, you're not going to be able to break it. Same thing with a fiber. If you want to rip a piece of cloth, if it's not ripped already, it's very hard to rip it. But if it has a little opening in it, then you can easily rip it. With that said, then we need to first empower the good midot. there's a reason why we have good midot and bad midot, because you can have a long list of bad midot, and then of course the good midot, we're also blessed with that. You can be very charitable, very kind, patient, understanding, and giving, and much more. Right now, in order to start even the journey, what I would tell you to do today is you take a piece of paper and you write down in 2 columns all the bad midot that you are very aware of that you have. Quick to anger, judgmental, jealous, whatever it is, you put it down. But you have to be, of course, very humble here to put the truth, not to say like, oh, no, that's not me. And then, of course, on the other side, the good midot that you know of yourself, and that's not considered arrogance to say that I'm kind, or to say that I'm merciful, or to say that I'm diligent, whatever it is. But you want to see what you're dealing with. And when you see what you're dealing with, it's easy to say, okay, let's now narrow down. Let's say I have 10 bad midot. Let's see which one is for me easiest to start working on. This is a life journey. This is not something you're going to master in 2 weeks. But you want to now isolate the midah, that it's the attribute that is positive, that it's easiest for you to empower, the positive one, and the negative one that you think would be easiest for you to start working on. It's kind of like we're going to a gym. You work on your biceps, you work on your, how do you call it, triceps, whatever it is, and there's certain workouts that it's just the arm. Certain workouts is just the chest. Certain workouts, just the back. Now, if you're coming for half an hour just to look at the cute girls with the tight, how do you call it, tank tops, or whatever it is, then you're not coming to work out. You're just coming to wash your hands, get to wash your eyes. But when a person comes to really work out, there's a system. One day you work on your legs, one day on the back, one day on the same idea. It's exact same idea. So you need to figure out, first of all, what's the weakest link and what's the most powerful link. And that's how you start. So today, I think I gave already too much of an introduction. Now we have to understand that, first of all, the mitzvot, we'll call it now the engine. And you have to have a fully loaded engine. So we're not chas v'shalom taking any mitzvah out of the list. But without the oil, the engine will not run. The engine will break. If you're not refining your midot, your mitzvot also are going to start, in Hebrew we say lekaratea, like a car that is starting to choke. So one has to accommodate the other. Now, like I told you, to summarize, you take a piece of paper and you write down, and don't worry, there's a lot more midot that you're not even aware how bad you are. Write the ones that are dominating in your mind, that you know for a fact that you would want to get rid of. And of course, we all share same midot that are bad. We all have an issue with anger. We all have an issue with being judgmental. Don't think you're the only one. We all have issues with being impatient. Some people less, some people more. What's interesting, the reason why it's called in Hebrew midah is an attribute, but midah is also a measurement. Because I can have the midah of kas, of anger, but how much? Like this or like that? Everybody has kas in them. There's a reason why Hashem created these midot, so I can use it in a very powerful way. The Torah says, "V'rav tvuot bekoach shor." When do you get the best result? When you have a power of an ox. I can't plow the ground. What am I going to plow it with? A little tool? You take an ox, now the ox will plow the land. So same thing here. When I have midot, if I have a strong attribute of anger, then use it for something positive. To be angry at the Yetzer Hara when it takes you away from your focus. But right now, before we go into this journey, then you take a piece of paper, write on one side, on the right side, the positive ones that you know that you are really good at and what you know is easy for you to apply and to empower. And then on the left side, all the bad ones, and be generous. Don't be cheap here, right? Exactly. Be honest, because there's no way of getting rid of it if you don't willing to admit. And then after that, we're going to start working on. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to give you over tools that are not coming from me, by the way. It's not that I'm some type of a genius. I just read books, and then I know how to apply it. We're going to use a few books that are the general books to really master it. They're not easy books. And we're going to start with Tomer Dvorah and Sharei Kedusha. These are the two books that really give you a lot of tools. But nevertheless, there's many other books that will really teach you how to refine your midot. And I can tell you already, this is really how you get the 2.0 version of yourself. And you'll be shocked how of a different person you can become when you know how to contain the bad midot. You know what it is to have it under a leash, to have your anger under a leash, to have your selfishness under a leash, to have your arrogance under a leash. I'm calling it under a leash. Because when I was a young kid, I had a lot of dogs. And how would I train the dogs? We had this leash that you pull, it chokes them. So that's for me the analogy. How you put your midot under a leash, you choke it. You need to know how to do it because you can do damage. Nevertheless, this is really an important part, and the whole goal is when I know how to put myself under some type of discipline, then I'm ready to stand in front of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Other than that, I'm not going to stand in front of Hashem. And for me to reach to the ultimate level of tshuva, and don't think that what we're doing here 40 days, that can take you 40 years. 40 days we're just bringing into a system that you rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. And many people, they focus on one midah and that's it. They don't focus on other midot. With that said, take a piece of paper, take a piece of pen, write it down. If you want it to be successful, that's the only way it will work. It will not work if you say, I'll do it in my mind. Because you have to kind of see, okay, where am I starting? And then we're going to have to start incorporating some deeper teachings about the four elements, because the elements is really what is triggering the midot. And I have to figure out what are my dominating elements. And when I know my dominating element, it's easy for me to work on the midot. Because a lot of people think that if I have a dominating element of fire, then I'm going to be an angry person, which is the complete opposite. The fire will bring a lot of arrogance and a lot of other things. Also anger. But anger not necessarily comes from the element of fire. Dafka, the element of fire will empower a lot of pride, ego, arrogance. That will birth already the anger that can come from a dominating element of water, by the way. But nevertheless, we're going to have to build of a system that you can kind of start mastering, knowing if you know your spiritual DNA, it's easy for you to decode, so to say, the problem, and then work on yourself. This is what we're here. We're here to work on ourselves. And now there's no time. Now it has to be done in a fast version, not in a slow version. Once, maybe 100 years ago, it would take time. Now there's no time. Now it has to be done in the speed of lightning. Bezrat Hashem, this is going to get a little bit of an more interesting way of approaching these 40 days. And Bezrat Hashem should make us successful in our new journey.